Akademiks can't ride no wave.
Like, Showtime and, Al Haymon, or he didn't sue Al Haymon, but he mentioned him a lot. But essentially, we got the first glimpse that maybe Floyd Mayweather Jr. might not be as rich, or, might still not be as rich as people thought. And there's more details that have came out. So the details is this, right? Let me try to lay this out in a good format for you. Okay. Here. All right. So it gives us like a really good picture of like Floyd Mayweather's, finances and other things. And this is where we kind of get to it. So there's this idea. And by the way, I think even Forbes has reported that Floyd is one of the rare fighters that, due to his athletic activity, there's been at least $1 billion in payout. I don't know if necessarily to him, but like because of how great he's been. So the lawsuit's kind of out, and now we have much more details that's going to give some context to it. So it says non-party Al Haymon was Mayweather's longtime manager and advisor and the alleged masterminds of a financial scheme. So he's claiming that Al Haymon robbed him, but he didn't sue him. He says a Harvard-educated businessman with a background in music promotion, Haymon is known for operating behind the scenes and maintaining extreme secrecy in dealings. Mayweather considered Haymon a father figure at the time and relied on him to manage virtually all aspects of his finances and contract. This position of trust and confidence made Haymon a fiduciary to Mayweather under California law. Haymon, however, has a reputation for leaving surprisingly few fingerprints on transactions and disclosing as little as possible to those he worked with. Okay. Says non-party is also Jeff Morris, who is a certified public accountant and tax attorney who was engaged allegedly by Haymon without Mayweather's consent to handle Mayweather's tax and accounting matters. Morris was a signator and a controller on several bank accounts where Mayweather fight earnings were deposited. For example, an account at first, blah, 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 was designated to receive revenue from at least one of Mayweather's fight. Morris's role in the scheme includes facilitating transfers and concealing information at Haymon's discretion. Basically, they're saying that Al Haymon was the person that was utilizing other people to try to hide the money.
We're going to investigate this further and further.
Well, he brought other people in, and the other people said, hey, something's not right here. You guys not returning your calls. He was pressing them for the money and not returning calls. And Haymon keeps claiming he's sick. And, is he sick or is he dodging? Is he using this thing? Like Vincent Gigante, the then head of the Genovese crime family, used to fake that he had mental illness, you see, and a lot of people think Haymon was faking sick.
Wow, insane!
Remember, he's been on top of a crumbling empire for a long time, and it's crumbled. Trust me.
PBC.
Okay. Give me a second. All right, so now we're getting a little bit more into his finances. And man, if this is true, is shady. So here's some things and some tactics, because now we're realizing maybe Mayweather really didn't know what was going on with his money. This says Haymon's aversion to leaving a digital trail extended to how he communicated instructions. He often relied on fax transmissions and in-person meetings rather than emails. In fact, when a subpoena for Haymon's deposition was served in related litigation, his counsel represented that Mr. Haymon doesn't even own or operate a computer, underscoring his deliberate avoidance of traceable electronic communication. By using faxes and avoiding emails, he made it harder to later uncover written evidence of his directives. For example, instruction to bank her accounts. This old school approach was a part of what one association called working in the Flintstone ages, and has served this purpose of secrecy well. So apparently he was telling people what to do with Floyd's money, but never actually putting paperwork to it. Now they give a little context that Floyd Mayweather met him and blah, blah. Let's read. So it says, Mayweather first signed his first promotional contract, including a long-term deal with Top Rank Boxing and HBO, without an independent legal counsel. For instance, he later learned that that an early contract gave HBO control to his fight footage masters, a term he didn't fully understand at the time, which would have future financial implications. Despite these disadvantages, Mayweather's talent propelled him quickly to championship status, earning him the nickname Pretty Boy Floyd, or later Money Mayweather. Around 2004, he was introduced to Al Haymon. The introduction was facilitated by Sam Watson. Haymon, a Harvard MBA graduate, a former music concert promoter, impressed Mayweather with his vision of maximizing fighters' earnings and taking more of a fighter-centric approach than traditional boxing promoters. Mayweather, coming off a strained relationship with promoters, he famously bought his contract with Bob Arum, Top Rank, to become a free agent. He was receptive to Haymon's advice and influence. Mayweather and Haymon entered into what Mayweather understood to be a verbal one-year management advisory agreement around 2005. Under this oral agreement, Haymon would act as Mayweather's manager or advisor for a 10% fee, meaning Haymon would receive 10% of Mayweather's fight earnings and Mayweather would keep 90%. The split was notably favorable compared to the standard management fee, which was often 33% in boxing. Mayweather's credited the unconventional deal structure with revolutionizing boxer management relationships, stating that it changed boxing management forever by empowering the fighter. After 1 year, no new written agreement was signed, which, by the way, it's kind of interesting how they're writing this. Didn't they say they entered to be a verbal agreement? So this lawsuit's already fucked. It says in 2005 they entered a verbal agreement where he was going to take 10%. And then they said after the year, they're saying, here we go. The split. Okay. After the 1 year term, no new written agreement was signed. Well, no written agreement was signed from the get-go. Yet Haymon continued in the same role for the next 15 plus years. So they're saying he just kept doing the same thing. At times, he represented Mayweather and others that he never took a dollar from Floyd beyond perhaps token amounts, even claiming he provided his services out of loyalty and friendship. For example, Haymon would later say that he did everything for free for Mayweather, which Mayweather now believes was a deceptive narrative. Over the years, Haymon became deeply embedded in every aspect of his professional and personal affairs. Interesting. Financial harm to Mayweather is massive, at least $340 million. I think we read that already. Okay. Oh, well, we read a little bit more. Including historically lucrative Pacquiao fight, which he should have gotten $240 million. Okay? Beyond the principal sum and the lost investment, it's enormous. Even a conservative index might double the money every 7 to 10 years, so that 340 could easily have grown to $1 billion over the decade. Mayweather's ability to generate such income again, though through fighting, is limited, as he's now a semi-retired 40-year-old man. Thus, the opportunity cost is irretrievable, warranting a significant reward of prejudgment interest and loss of use of damages on top of the raw amount. Mayweather built a public persona around financial success. The revelation that he was defrauded out of hundreds of millions, and the resultant rumors, or the false rumors, that he was broke or stuck overseas due to money issues, have caused him reputational harm and mental anguish. He has to endure public speculation about his finances that is mortifying for someone of his pride and status. Internally, discovering that this betrayal by a long-trusted advisor at Haymon has been emotionally devastating. His strained relationships with him and his camp and his family and cause him to question his own judgment and trust in people. These are real damages cognizable under fraud and fiduciary breach claims. So Mayweather is alleging that $20,000 or $20 million actually of his his $20 million Berto purse was actually paid out of his Manny Pacquiao purse, and another $50 million in vague expenses also was from the Manny Pacquiao purse. So he fought Berto for free, and he's also alleging he hasn't been paid out all the money from Pacquiao 11 years ago. So it says, routing the funds of secret accounts. And so on or about May 2015, Showtime and through his officers wired Mayweather's purse and a pay-per-view upside from the Pacquiao fight into a First Security Bank account, Jeff Morris account, rather than to Mayweather. This was an act furthered by the conspiracy of putting the money with Haymon within Haymon's easy reach. Showtime's accountant statements for the fight, at least those I've been seeing, included false or inflated expenses would reduce Mayweather's net. For example, charging $50 million in vague expenses and $20 million for Berto on the Pacquiao ledger, acts which concealed the diversion of funds. If these entries were made at Haymon's request, Showtime's inclusion of them was an act joining the conspiracy as to give paper justification to withhold money from Mayweather. Okay, cool. All right. So essentially, they're saying they're finessing this guy, man. Haymon had a stroke in 2023, and it seems like it was a bad one. That's when Mayweather started asking questions about his money after Haymon became quite incapacitated. All of a sudden, Mayweather's lawyers started quitting and retiring. I could only assume those were Haymon appointed lawyers. He says, on one occasion, Haymon or his agents allegedly altered a document to conceal wrongdoing. Mayweather representatives have an example of fax authorization form in which the date appears to have been manually altered, whited out, and rewritten to misrepresent when it was signed. The same document which purported to authorize Jeff Morris to pay himself a large sum from Mayweather's account had a telling notion initially, we need to cover our asses, which was crossed out by the version sent to the bank. The presence of the phrase and the redaction strongly suggests Haymon and his team recognized the impropriety of what they were doing and were attempting to do attempting to paper over the trail. Moreover, following the medical issue of stroke in late 2023, there was a sudden exodus of key members of Mayweather's camp. 5 of Mayweather's longtime attorney abruptly retired or withdrew from the representation within a 3-month span. This time it raised suspicion that these individuals may have been aware or complicit in aspects of hidden scheme and chose to distance themselves. Haymon was incapacitated and the situation risked exposure. To date, many records remain missing. Indeed, when Mayweather's new team asked Showtime in 2024 for the documentation of fight revenues and expenses, they were told that some records, for example, the payouts spreadsheets or deal memos for the Pacquiao and McGregor fights, were actually lost in a flood or stored off-site and weren't readily accessible. Whether or not such flood occurred, and end result is that the documentation would clearly trace the flow of money to and from Mayweather from his biggest fight is conveniently unavailable. Person said PBC's done. Not too sure how they could recover from this. Mayweather's reason they exist, and for him to accuse Haymon of stealing from them is damning. And even worse, Haymon has some shady business practices, sneaky red flags already. They're saying Floyd spent so much money, even if Haymon never took what Floyd alleged he was going. If Haymon never took what Floyd's alleging, he was going broke. Walls were closing in. Hopefully, he has been paying his taxes because that's was almost his undoing twice, and the IRS likes to wait until you're in situations like Mayweather to come to collect. They're saying it is with okay, cool. Floyd Mayweather money was all over the place. If true, Haymon controlled all of his finances. Let's read a little bit more about that. They're saying that banking records obtained by Mayweather's team show a pattern of large transfers from the above accounts to Alan Haymon's development and to other Haymon-owned entities. The transfer were also always labeled as repayment or a loan payoff, falsely suggesting that Haymon had advanced money to Mayweather at some point, which was now being reimbursed. Mayweather insists that he had never received loans from Haymon. The effect was to systematically move Mayweather's earnings into Haymon's coffers under false pretenses. For example, over the course of years, tens of millions of dollars would be moved to Al Haymon Development shortly after major fights, draining the account that held Mayweather's money. Additionally, records show numerous one-off payments from Mayweather's accounts directly to Haymon or Morris. These include transactions on the days connected to any fight, with memos like Mayweather's expenses or no clear description, and amounts such as $12 million, $15 million, $3 million, and $9 million. Each of these represents Mayweather's monies being paid out without his authorization or benefit. He never approved paying Haymon such bonuses or fees at the agreed 10%, and certainly not paying his accountant Morris multi-million-dollar sums. Such payments, if they occurred, were clearly misappropriations. Haymon took great pain to ensure Mayweather remained unaware of these accounts and transactions. This is corroborated by the statement from the insiders that Haymon not only permitted Floyd to see what Haymon wanted him to see, but actively hid documentation. In one communication, Haymon directed Morris to send Floyd the signature pages of the contracts with Haymon's handwritten notes, and it explicitly says he doesn't want Floyd to see the documents. This level of control prevented Floyd from discovering the outflows of his money. It was a direct breach of Haymon's fiduciary duty to provide all full disclosure of material facts related to Mayweather finances. This is getting messy, y'all. It's looking like Floyd is going to be down bad. Floyd is clearly accusing Haymon of kind of orchestrating this, and it's ironic that he's not suing him, but he's doing what Drake is doing with the lawsuit when it comes to Not Like Us. you should be suing Kendrick. If you want to sue the labels along with Kendrick, that's fine, but you should be suing Kendrick. He's the one who offended and also defamed you, if we're going to believe it's defamation. Now, when we think about this, it's the same thing. Floyd should be suing Al Haymon because you're actually saying you don't know what the books should have been, or you don't know what was paid. You know what was taken, but you can't really fully clearly point out that maybe you were getting robbed from Showtime, and Showtime didn't pay you. Looked like they paid somebody. Maybe they didn't pay you. They paid Al Haymon. Maybe they paid the shell company. That's on you to figure out, because for them to authorize your money to go anywhere else, you had to sign off on some type of sheet that would allow them to put your money where it was going to go. So if you never agreed to it, they shouldn't have done it. And if they did it without your consent, you have a huge case. You could get a lot of money. But if they did it and you consented, I'm not too sure if you could blame Spotify. Now, there's a case that maybe you could blame. Did I say Spotify? Sure. I'm not sure if you could blame. Am I tripping? I'm not sure if you could blame Showtime. Sorry. Did I say Spotify or Showtime? My bad. Anyway, so you can't blame Showtime. Look, there's no proof that they didn't pay you, or based on the agreement. It feels like you don't even know the agreement. So you don't know the agreement. Look like they paid something out, and every time they paid something out, the money went missing, and some went to Al Haymon based on what he claimed was reimbursements and other things that you owed him. Because according to the claims that you're even claiming, is that Al Haymon told y'all that, yo, I did take some of your money, but you owe me. Now, that might be a thing where Al Haymon is like being like, I don't want to bring up an artist in this, but there's a situation where a label said, yo, this artist, yeah, we're in a production deal with them, but this artist is broke, and he spent the money that the label gave us, and he came to us and asked me for $100,000. He wanted to buy a chain. I gave him $100,000. So obviously, that's not free $100,000. That person's gonna reimburse himself. So I'm wondering if it's something of the sort like this. But it's interesting. He's not suing Al Haymon, even though it seems like Al Haymon is the main person who defrauded him. Why are you suing Showtime? Or are you trying to make the point that Showtime should never have paid Haymon? Well, I'm pretty sure they have some type of, he's saying it was some old school shit. So I guess he's hoping they don't have some proof that he authorizes, which that's going to be the interesting part of it all, right? Yeah. Floyd is in shambles, y'all. Floyd is in shambles. He's in shambles. I don't